second year, got to win it in the third year. I went through a thought process. The thought process stands up, but unfortunately the interpretation of that thought process was flawed and produced perhaps the biggest dog of a Formula One car that March ever produced, the 721X.
One of those 721s is campaigned in the TGP by a very brave German, Jules Tollenaar.
Poor Nicky and Ronnie had to drive it, and it was awful. And Ronnie was such a nice guy who say lovely things, he's got great potential. And Nicky was more frank, and we took it down to Madrid to run for the first time. We were going round and round, not getting anywhere, doing appalling lap times. And Nicky got in, did the first 5 laps, came in and said, "Robin, this is useless, forget it."
By 1976, March had developed the 761, the car that was racing last season with rookie Dave Carrascus.
For 76, we had £50,000 for the whole season. And I just took a Formula 2 car and we sawed off the back, put on a Formula 1 engine. Ronnie drove it. Ronnie had come back into the family. And I had Vittorio Brambilla, who was a great personality. Italian driver driving the other two, and we had a fair number of pole positions. Ronnie won the Italian Grand Prix. In those days, you didn't have to make your own cars as a Formula 1 team.
There were some Formula 1 races with only 13 cars, and of those perhaps 8 were really competitive, like Lotus, BRM and Ferrari and so on, and the others were more or less there to make up the numbers. Suddenly, because we built 10 Formula 1 cars and 7 of them were actually running, there was pressure to get on the grid, there was qualifying, there was trouble. Some places they would only have 16 starters and there were 20 cars, and we really disrupted completely that cosy world.
Regulations became that each team could only had to make its own cars, and they had to be 2 cars in the team. This was subsequently introduced.
March continued on into the 80s with cars like the Guinness-sponsored 811, driven here by Nick May in the TGP series. They were never to attain that dream of a world championship before they finally closed the door for good in 1991.
Back at Magny Cours, the drivers prepare to get down to the business of going racing. Tony Smith gets strapped into his Williams as Richard Eyre prepares. Push start for Steve Hitchens in the Minardi, but one driver unfortunately will not be taking the start. Poor old Hubertus Balzen has lost the plot, spun his Lotus on the warm-up lap. Into pole position though comes fast Freddie Kumschik, Richard Eyre easing up alongside, and Mike Wrigley looking menacing. There's a big gap though where Hubertus Balzen would have been, and Nick May also missing. He's starting from the pit lane. As the green flag lap starts and the drivers prepare their final warm-up lap, the lights are about to change to green. The engine revs rise to their peak at 11,000 and away they go. Freddie Kumschik leads away into the first corner with Richard Eyre clinging to second place and Mike Wrigley third ahead of Dave Carrascus. Down at the back of the field there's some dust kicked up by Paul Tattersall's ensign there. Down they come to the Adelaide hairpin for the first time. Kumschik already with 50 metres lead from Eyre, with Wrigley looking up the inside, can't quite make it, goes over the curves. Fourth is Carrascus, with a super side-by-side battle there with the Minardi of Steve Hitchens coming out ahead of the Arrows of Steve Hartley. Up into the Nürburgring right-hander they go, that's followed by a left-hand flick. Then a short run up to the left-handed 180-degree bend where we pick up Freddie Kumschik in the lead. He's got his right foot nailed to the floor as usual. There's Eyre and Wrigley in pursuit, and a lot of the midfield cars running very close together in behind them. Down they come towards Imola Corner and Shadow Doe. Super action study there of Steve Hartley. There's Steve Hitchens with the Minardi, the ex-Pierluigi Martini car from 1985. Carl Marson's Blue Tyrrell there to the fore in that little battle with John Croson's ensign. But at the end of the first lap, it's fast Freddie Kumschik already sailing serenely on in the Williams. But there's a problem there, going slowly out of the last corner for Dave Abbott with the ensign, and round the outside of him sweeps Michel Quignou in that splendid twin chassis Lotus 88B. Back with the leader, Freddie Kumchik down to the Adelaide hairpin car, squirming under braking, turns it in very neatly. The exit speed so important here. Air in second, Wrigley third, and behind them the orange arrows of Dave Carrascus coming out over the curbs. Next up is Steve Hartley. He's got himself ahead of Steve Hitchens at this point, and into the pits has come Carl Marson, who's debuted this 009 Tyrrell this weekend. He's banged his steering against John Crowson's car and is out for the afternoon, unfortunately. But there's Freddie Kumchik, more than 500 horsepower, and he's making it look so simple. So neat, so tidy, loves technical circuits, but none of the drivers used to the Magny Cours Grand Prix circuit here in central France, so it's a bit of an adventure for all of them. There's Tony Smith with his Williams FW06, stalwart of the series. Behind him Paul Tattersall, but the leader passes the start-finish line for another time. Kumchik sailing away from Air and Wrigley with Carrascus and Hartley in behind. Dave Carrascus really enjoying this season with the Arrows A4. Down into the hairpin for the third time. It's Kumchik with that familiar yellow crash helmet ahead of the orange helmeted Richard Eyre. There is the Tyrrell 012X Martin Brundle car, this one, of Mike Wrigley in third place. There's Wrigley again coming out of the 180 with Hartley up ahead this time of Dave Carrascus, and Hartley a man on the move with the flat-bottomed Arrows. There's Richard Eyre in the ex-Keke Rosberg Williams FW08. Coming down past the pit signalling board again is our leader, Freddie Kumchik. You can hear him already, he's beginning to short-change. He has such a lead over this man, Richard Eyre, in car number 2. Kumchik already a winner 3 times this season. Second place in the championship so far, but I think there could be something wrong with that car. You don't hear the engine revs rising as they were earlier on in the race. Goes up into the Nürburgring corner, and there comes Mike Whatley down the inside of Steve Hitchens. Hitchens' Minardi wriggles as it goes away under acceleration. It's a car that's new to the series this year. And Mike Whatley in the 88 car, championship leader. A big slide for Michel Quignou in the Lotus 88. We're waiting for the leaders to appear under the Mobile Bridge, and Kumchik's missing. Kumchik's gone, so this is the battle for the lead, and there's some debris in the track which Richard Eyre has run over. Mike Wrigley right in behind him in the blue Tyrrell now, and this is going to be an absorbing battle because these two very closely matched around the Magny Cours circuit. There's Steve Hartley, who's in third place ahead of Carrascus. But back with the leaders and getting very, very close is Mike Wrigley, who's pushing harder than ever before in this series. He has a genuine whiff of victory here. Be patient though, plenty of time still to go in this race. Up over the curbs has come Mike Whatley in car number 88. He's ahead of Steve Hitchens in the Minardi, very sleek looking motor car. Fifth place is the ensign of Dave Abbott now. There's that Minardi, very sleek car, built for the Motori Moderni engine, but originally raced in this form with the DFE. Down into the hairpin they come, and look at Wrigley's all over the back of the gearbox of the Williams of Richard Eyre. There gets better traction out of the hairpin up towards Nürburgring corner, and that could be a key here on this twisty track. Fourth is the orange arrows there of Carrascus, so it's back with the leaders, round 180. Yeah, and Wrigley. Richard Eyre hasn't won one of these races for a couple of seasons, one in Barcelona and the Nürburgring in the 2000 season. Wrigley's yet to win one, so his hunger will be even greater.